I think hopefully we're all on a crusade to not F up our kids.
Welcome to Fika's Focus. Voices leading change.
Morning, everyone. We are here with Anton and Rose, and we're going to have a yarn about a few great things that have been going on. The first thing I thought we'd do is go back to the conscious parenting course and the success of it. We had, what do you reckon, we had about 10 or 12 participants in that space, a couple of couples, a few males, which was really cool, and it was an opportunity. So Anton and Michelle led the day. And what were some of the real cool things that came out of it for you, Anton?
To be honest, I think it was the couples that turned up, jumped out at me, and the dads.
Yeah.
And that's what that's why we want to talk today about that dad program, because to me, there was a lot of writing. Those journals we gave them to reflect in. I was like, are they actually going to write and take things? Mate, it was flat out.
Yeah.
Writing. So to me, there was people paying attention, soaking some stuff up.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to know today. Like, it's good that you're here, Rose, because I want to know how Mitch found it. He probably doesn't want you to talk about it. You got no choice.
We'll use a pseudonym. We'll use a pseudonym name. Yeah.
No, it was really cool because we came as a couple,
Yeah.
and it was really powerful to both be learning alongside each other and the relevance of it to both of our boys. So there were moments in the workshop where just like look at each other and be like, like the penny dropped. I was doing the writing.
Nice, yeah.
For
I know.
them.
He was doing a lot of nodding, which
Yes, but I think he is quite a reserved person, and the fact that he put his hand up and was like contributing in conversations and asking questions was really huge for me to see that how comfortable he felt in that setting. So from that's kind of where the brainstorm around something for dads has come, so we can get more of that.
Just sticking on that point, though, with Mitchell as an example, a good example was him being able to voice his awareness of the individuality of his two boys. He was he's got a very clear vision of the differences.
One is me and one is him.
Yeah, poor bastard.
Yeah.
But what I really found striking in this small group conversation, where there was a point where we broke into small groups and we were sharing some stuff, and Michelle and Anton partnered into those spaces. There was one point where Mitchell had a platform to share one of his fears for one of your boys, and it was genuine. Yeah. It actually really hit him because he knows that that's a fear or insecurity that he carries, and we were all able to align with his fear, whether it being rational or not, that doesn't matter. We were all able to align, but also just seeing his bravery for his son and being able to share that is a very powerful moment.
Yeah, and I had that in one of the other smaller groups we had, where a dad also shared his childhood experiences and the fear about just wanting to do it right.
Yeah.
And asking questions that, from the outside you're like, really, is that what's worrying you? But it was a genuine worry for that dad, and he just wanted to get it right for his kids because he didn't want them to have the same experiences he had.
Yes.
I thought that was quite powerful, and he was in a group full of all females and mums, but comfortable enough to share that, which I thought was powerful for him. And I noticed a lot of writing there for him, and he was reflecting and smiling, and he was excited to know where the limits were, where the boundaries were. In the way that he was parenting. Cool.
And I think one thing that Michelle and yourself did, Anton, in that space to really help alleviate any anxiety about us being good parents or not, if that was a belief we carried about ourselves as parents, was that straight away you said, guys, you're here at a parenting course. Like, give yourselves a pat on the back. You're here wanting to be better. For your children, and that is enough of a start to help us recognise that we're trying to do good things for our being parents.
Celebrating all the stuff that we are doing well.
Yes,
just being good enough. And we made a point of that in the course as well. Like, it's not about perfection because you're not going to get it.
No,
I think everyone's left feeling empowered that one, they are doing a good job, and two, they actually have some takeaway strategies that they can add to their kit going forward.
You pick up something and implement. Yeah. In that small group situation where we have a chance to hear the experiences of other parents, and for us, and even because obviously you're a parent as well, Anton, like, what does that do for us when we sit in a room and we're like, oh, okay, you go through, oh, okay, fist bump.
What's the
Normalising
acronym?
it.
You've heard me say it enough times now. What's that acronym, mate? VAN.
Oh, Van, yes,
Come
yeah,
on.
yeah.
It does. It validates, acknowledges, and this is the key one. It normalises it.
Yes.
That normalisation, just to sit there and especially, I felt for the dads to go, okay, it's not just me. You're having you're questioning that part of parenting as well. That part's important.
It was interesting for me obviously a centre leader and having conversations with my whānau that came to that. It was all mums from my centre, but one of the first things that they said afterwards was, I need to get their husband or their partner to this. Like because they obviously have to split the care of their children, right? One can go and one often stays home to look after the children while they're at the course, and they were just like, first thing they said was, I need to get my partner on this course.
I thought of that. So why do you think there might be a pushback? And I've been thinking about this week with dads or perhaps, males attending. I've been trying to think about that this week.
Well, this is one observation I have. A podcast we did a couple of weeks ago was a call to action, which is something we've been focusing on ourselves in terms of people commenting. I don't know how many comments we got, but we got messages and people coming up to us, coming up to me face to face to talk. Now, in that forum on social media, it's a different forum, open forum, and I guess people can see it. But there were people reaching out at that, and the message of, hey, there are better ways, or we don't have to stick to the equation that we were brought up with. We can challenge some of that. That resonated with the guys that got in touch with me, because, quite frankly, they just don't know any other way. That's the equation they run with at times. But I think that for me personally, putting yourself into a space of being vulnerable in that social space, it is a hard thing.
Yeah.
It is. A lot of men don't, well, that's harsh. How can I say this? Sometimes men feel like they don't want to expose themselves to looking weak or vulnerable. And in that scenario, there's, my kids are fine. They're happy. They've got stuff that it's very easy to validate what you don't need to, it's very easy. Oh, my kids are happy. Oh, my kids have got all toys and they've got clean clothes and food.
Yeah.
But, they got friends.
I think in general, like, I'm speaking from my relationship, I'm probably the more vocal of the two of us. But it doesn't mean that the same reflections or thoughts aren't happening with Mitchell, but I'm more likely to talk about it and to vocalise it. And I think that's why I signed both of us up to the
yes.
But I think that's the difference maybe, and I'm generalising, but I think in general lots of mums are probably the more vocal and will put their hand up to do things, whereas the dads are probably going through the same experience, but they're just not as...
That's right. There's a gender difference in the roles.
I think it's changing, though.
It is.
Like, if you look at the trends, like, definitely dads are more traditionally than they were, like, hands-on and involved and everything. 100%. So it's changing, but I think it's just talking about it.
It's interesting.
There's a few. I think that's one. I've thought of this week. I really did try and push about it. We work in that industry, so we can see the benefits of doing something like this. I think if you have a good experience and a dad gets to have a different perception about how to do things, or you're right, letting that ego kind of sit on the side and not necessarily being vulnerable, but just being open to ideas. I think it's important. Sometimes it's also just can't be bothered. Like, it's that's another one.
Yeah.
I have never ever had a dad not come into my practice and walk away, and it's not because of something that I necessarily did, but just they've walked out of there with something to take away and go, I never thought about it that way. And I think that's what Michelle does well, is that good enough parenting, but then also there's ways of amplifying that experience with your kids. And you know how good that feels when you get it right.
Yeah.
How good does that feel? And then the opposite, when you
Get it wrong.
Yeah.
Geez, that can sit with you for a long time.
No, it does. Well, it haunts you. Yeah. Because I think hopefully we're all on a crusade to not F up our kids. I think that's the challenge. And I guess as a dad, so I've been a dad in 2 stages of my life. So with Cortez, he's 25 now. I was a dad in that realm. And I was, because Rana and I weren't together in that space, I was the hard parent. He came up and hung with me, but I had, not saying that Rana didn't have boundaries, but I implemented strict boundaries around things. And there were times where I could have just relaxed. I could have just... Yeah, it was, and I carried a lot of that, but I had no one to talk to about it.
You only know what you know.
Yes.
And this is the thing, like, when I always invite the dads in, even if it's for that one kid, mums always, I find majority of the mums will bring the child to come see me in the practice. I have to get the dad in at least once, just to share that experience. Don't get me wrong, there's families that collectively come in together. More often it's the mum that brings them in. And so they only know what they know. So we've got to involve them. And I think this is a great experience to learn how to have more of those feel-good moments with your kids.
You can't replace it, yeah.
You can't replace it. You know what it feels like. It feels good.
Yeah.
You have a good parenting moment, you walk away and go, geez, I handled that a bit different than I usually do, and it actually great outcome.
Yeah.
Got like 930 weekends or something before your kid leaves home.
Is that it? Is that a stat, is it? Oh,
Mate,
930.
My daughter's, she's going to intermediate. I've got like 300 left. Wow. After the first year intermediate, I've got like 200.
Yeah, wow.
I'm in the 200s. Like 200s, something like that. So, kids, when they're younger, they are far more malleable, and we talked about that in the group. Start young. Think about the experiences you give them with a parent, and that's going to pay dividends later on.
That experience we're talking to also, though, because I think the course really helped us build awareness around the different, if we're talking in a couple space, awareness around that we do have differing styles and approaches and understandings of what we see in a scenario. And Anton, you spoke about the Olympics thing, wanting to watch the Olympics and one child adamant that that's not fair and blah, blah, and the other child, well, hang on, logically, that's the only TV I can watch the Olympics on. And those scenarios, it gave us a chance as a couple to actually digest it and go, actually, it's okay that we both see the scenario differently, but we do have to be on board with what we deliver as a message to support. And I think that's where Courtney's helped. She's coached me a lot in that space, because my thing is around, so I just have this thing around entitlement, and I have this thing around being kind. Those are two things, because my mum was very hard on me about a lot of that stuff, but then it's an overindulgence in that, in those elements of, because actually when I step back and look at my kids, they're bloody great. They are. And Mrs. Collins yesterday at the podcast, she was like, off air, she was like, I'd have Frankie, I'd keep her. She's so kind, that kid. She is so kind. And you give yourself a kick up the butt, because I'm sometimes so trapped in my own thoughts that I actually don't recognise what I'm actually trying to do. And that's
taking, right?
Yeah. So when we're moving into this dad space, because it is a really, I think it's a really powerful space. Anton, do you reckon there's going to be any sort of differing approach, or what do you think it might look like?
I think there'll still be a heavy focus, because what you mentioned before, I think is the most powerful one, is when you look at your own experiences growing up, and you can be honest with yourself and see where you're sitting in your parenting style. So just getting the maps and laying them over top of each other and saying, okay, well, what am I doing that's very similar? How far have I leaned the other way? That example I used about the Olympics, like, to be honest with you, I probably would have done it differently with my daughter, because I was still learning, a new dad. So I guess that's going to be the most powerful part for me. That's going to be similar to what we've done. However, I think the chat between dads, we're going to have different content in terms of what they're going to be reflecting on in their caring responsibilities and what role they can play. That's going to be a huge difference.
Well, and one thing that stands out to me, and I can't talk about it and for other people, but one thing which I know, and a couple of my mates were messaging me about it, was the role that the dad is the enforcer. And you wait till your father gets home, that sort of stuff. And actually, that's not a nice role.
No.
I remember even as a team leader in primary school teaching, when I was teaching, getting sent the naughty kids to me. Actually, that was a horrible role.
The only time you see those kids is when it's negative. Yeah.
That was a horrible role for me. And actually, I remember kicking off about it, like, hang on, man. No, I'm not judging jury that just because you can't deal with them, you're going to miss the Everest room. Like that, nah. I want to see them all the good times. Yeah. But it's, I know. But one thing that, and my mate Travis and I were talking about it, like the dad's role of being the enforcer, that's got to die. That's got to.
I think we are. I think it's against. I'm not doing any stereotypes there, okay? But we are. Some of us, most of us, are wired to go fix things, right? That's what we do.
Yeah.
So I learned this early on with my daughter. I always, if there's something going wrong, mate, I'll be in there.
Yeah. I
will catch you before you drop. Hit the ground. If there's a mate playing up, I'll be in there sorting it out for you. I think that in the last, I want to say, even in the last couple of years, I've made more of an effort to change that role and trying to fix it for her. And just opening up conversation, like just listening. And I don't think it's because she's a girl or boy or whatever. It's just, thanks for sharing that with me. I started with that now. That's my key is, thanks for talking to me about it. That's it. What do you want to do about it? Like having her part of that problem solving process has changed my role as a dad so much because I know what she needs to do and I want to just fix it so I can carry on. And she's coming to me with a lot more stuff now, deep stuff, and I like that. She's like 10, going 11. I don't think she should be coming to me with a lot of that stuff, but I love it. And I think that to me was a game changer. And I'm hoping that dads will be open to that idea around how they can not be the enforcer or set the limits and boundaries, which is often the case.
Rose, in that space, because Mitchell's quiet, he is quiet. Mitchell, she's calling you out, mate. But what does that look like for you supporting Mitchell into some of those spaces that are not familiar for him as a dad?
Do you know what? I feel like I'm almost the enforcer in our parenting.
Kia ora, Christine. Kia ora. It's Christine, Rose's mum.
But I think Mitchell is naturally like a very gentle person.
Yep.
And it comes through in his parenting. Not saying that I'm not, but we just definitely have different styles of communication. And I think from our conscious parenting workshop that we did, that was something that came through for us, was actually we're both on the same page, but unless we communicate about it, it can get misinterpreted.
Yep.
And that's probably helped not only our parenting, but our relationship, understanding that and being able to be like, I did this because, and then for me to actually see it from his point of view.
Actually, that's a great point because there's another couple that mentioned it really helped their relationship as well.
Because we're not conflicting over our parenting.
Yes.
Well, it's pretty easy to go blue and blue, right? As soon as we kind of get in that space, especially with kids, testing us, which happens all the time.
Well, especially if it's in those elements that that are from our own parenting experience, our childhood experience into our parenting experience, like I said, like entitlement. If that's something that in the past, that if I interpreted it as entitled behaviour, I just saw red about it, and it was not a nice moment for me as a dad, nor probably as a wife for Courtney. But her ability to coach me into the spaces of recognising the signs of me starting to get fired up, and B, how to actually address it healthily.
And I think that's something that came out for us as well. Mitchell and I both realised we're triggered by different things in our kids. And so now I know, or I can anticipate what's going to trigger him and how I can jump in and support. And same with him would be, like he knows what triggers me so he can jump in and help when he's like, I need to jump in.
And us
I
not
got
get
this.
defensive,
Yeah,
not get defensive about you
But
know.
it's just that awareness of yourself and each other that was huge for us out of that workshop. Yeah.
Yeah, there was another dad. He shared a lot of kind of adverse experiences growing up and trying to not kind of replicate a lot of that, but leaning too far the other way and being very accommodating for his kids. Now you're talking about a lot of guilt and shame when you've been very critical or you're doing the kind of disciplining and things like that. There was a lot of guilt and shame about am I doing too much? Am I accommodating too much for my kids?
Yeah.
I feel guilty saying no, and so we had to work on. We talked about that shame and guilt, and actually it's okay. Like to also say like, just paid for an hour.
Yep. You don't.
It's time for bed.
But wanting to do the right thing. I think that was a great example of wanting to do the right thing, and the guilt and shame just came from a different place. That's all.
Yes, and I think that's what the course helped us recognise in that space is that we're constantly fighting for a balance.
Yeah.
It's like we're sitting on a pendulum or trying to find some sort of equilibrium of approach. But the reality is if we're not, and we are going to be doing some stuff on co-parenting and things in the future, which I think is a new dynamic that's really coming around. But for us as a couple, to have that space to utilise each other to help in that balanced space and tapping out, like if there's a situation that's really triggering, that we can just say, hey, I need help. This I'm not going to deal with this well, and just going from there, and just keeping that level of respect for one another and the triggers in that space. But yeah, well, the dads course, we kind of short noticed it, but we really want to. It'd be cool to really get that humming in full. I've had multiple people message me about keen to do it, but we've only got one signed up.
Yeah.
Yep. We want to push that. We want you to commit to it. We want to roll with it because I think it's just such a critical workshop. It's a Sunday. I know. Hey, I'm getting you out of your lawns.
Yeah,
you don't need to mow your lawns.
That's the thing, but it's fun. We're gonna have a bit of fun too.
Yeah, but a kai and
it's not scary.
No.
Like it's really empowering and helpful. Like it's not. You're not going to be judged. You're not going to be like. It's really, really valuable.
And it's the gift we can give our children. Yeah. This is a gift that has a compounding effect.
Yeah.
It has a compounding effect on our own self-worth in that space, on our own self-esteem around being a parent, but also it's for the betterment of our children. And that's, we've got so many cool stories already about dads making great changes in their lives and the impacts of dads being heavily involved in their kids' lives. And we obviously see them in an early childhood space. We really want to just help open up conversations. It is not for us to come in and point fingers at you and tell you you're doing the wrong thing. It is a network of men sitting around saying to each other, hey, we can actually do better.
Well, have more of those wow moments that we talked about. At the start. Those
Yeah.
great moments.
Yeah.
And often moving away from being the ref. Hey, that's the big
Yeah.
thing. Like,
Yeah.
am I and we do that. We reflect. Am I being the ref? Am I being the coach? Am I being the touchy that's just calling it out all the time?
Yeah.
Hey?
Yeah.
You know, am I just
Yeah.
sitting
Calling it out.
Am I sitting in the back just watching the show? But
Yeah.
the key is you want to be the coach.
Yeah.
As many times you want to be the right coach for your kids.
Yeah, one of my best mates, he says, because his kids are older, he just says, bro, you just got to stay in the conversation.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to stay in the conversation, bro, because your kids are going to roll in with things that you're probably not going to agree with.
No, but are you going to be just calling out all the red? Because that's what a ref does, right?
Yeah.
They're not there to encourage the players to play beat up.
Yeah. Come on, hit the ruck harder. Yeah.
So it's the same thing. It's like, how do we move away from that and become the coach in our kids' lives and have those wow moments? That's what it's about. Yeah.
We're going to be shoulder tapping some people. I know there's some people that have spoken to me about it. They said they're coming, so it's out now. We're hosting it at Tahatai School, which is our kids' school, Evans Road, and in a space there with a nice staff room and things like that. Not that we couldn't do that, but and we really appreciate Tahatai and Skilton and the team letting us do that. It is absolutely worth your while. please look out on our socials. We'll be putting it out on Story Park and things like that. We want dads there. We want to help you. We want to support you, and build a network of people to get into it.
Also, it's open outside of Future Focus.
Yes.
Like
Oh,
anyone's
yes.
welcome.
Community.
Everyone, anyone, all come.
Yes, yeah, we're absolutely
mates.
for it. Bring your mates, yeah, bring a mate. Just make sure you come in and you know that we're there to support you. All right, awesome team. Thank you very much. Look forward to it. Up the wires. We'll win this weekend.